Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 128 of the Note Coach podcast. I'm your host, Suzanne Culberg, joined today by the fabulous Jo Renshaw. And Jo sent me a message. Actually, I'm going to let everyone know because I know other podcasters listen to my show. So this is the best pitch I've ever received. It was a video pitch. So Jo sent me a video talking about what she wanted to speak about. And I was like, 100%, let's do it. So today we are discussing how to be your own best friend. So I'm going to be quiet and pass it over to Jo. Take it away.
Thank you. Very lovely to be here and meet you all. I'm in Brighton in the UK, which is literally across the other side of the world from where Suzanne is. And I teach people how to be their own best friend. So typically, what I notice is a lot of people are their own worst enemy in like subtle ways and not so subtle ways. The not so subtle ways are kind of over drinking, overeating, smoking, consuming all those things that we know are so bad for us. But there's also like more subtle ways, like giving ourselves a hard time for not doing it right and beating ourselves up, which we kind of think is normal, right? We think it's normal to give ourselves a hard time for not doing it right, not getting it perfect. So there's really like three main things that I've noticed in my clients over the years that I've sort of boiled it down to that I talk about. So one of them is like these people don't want to feel any negative emotion. And I find that so fascinating that, first of all, we call it negative emotion, because I think that all emotion is emotion, all feelings are feelings. Anger, sadness, joy, happiness, love, grief. But we've been trained by them, whoever they are, to think that, like Disney and Grimm's fairy tales and what have you, we've been trained to think that some feelings are good and some feelings are bad. Some are negative and some are positive. And the brain loves to make this binary, like we'll have these good ones over here and these bad ones over here. And obviously, we should avoid bad things and we should avoid negative things. So when it comes to like those bad inverted commas feelings like anger, pain, shame, discomfort, nobody wants to feel them. I mean, they don't feel very nice in the body, right? If you're experiencing shame, it just feels horrible in the body. And so we resist that. And we have another thought about it. So let's say you feel humiliated about something, right? And then you're like, oh, I shouldn't feel humiliated. I have to not feel humiliated. So your brain judges the feeling. But our thoughts create our feelings. So if we've had a thought about a feeling, then we have another feeling. So it's like we're piling all these feelings on top of one another rather than what's a much more efficient way and just so counterintuitive, just feel the original feeling. And we've not been taught to do that at all. What we have been taught to do is go and have a slice of cake or go shopping and buy ourselves a treat. Like if you've had a bust up with a boyfriend, oh, let's go shopping. We'll just buy ourselves a nice outfit, then we'll feel better. And yeah, that works temporarily. So that's one of the things we work on, is like learning how to feel what we've been taught are negative emotions. And it's a skill to learn for sure. But once we have felt those emotions, everything just does what it says on the tin, right? A feeling wants to be felt. When we feel it, it moves through our body. One definition I like for feelings is that it's a vibration in your body caused by a thought in your brain. For me, instantly, that takes any kind of like loadedness out of it. It's a very simple equation. Oh, that's like, I feel anger, which is a vibration in my body caused because I'm thinking that guy's an idiot, for example. So
I just want to jump in there. Like, number one, first thought that came to my mind is we don't want to feel any negative emotion, so that we do the things like, as you said, shopping or eating or whatever, which often results in guilt or shame about the money spent or the calories consumed or the time wasted. So like for me and for the clients I work with, I think although it's uncomfortable, it's often a lot more familiar to sit in guilt and shame than to sit with an emotion such as anger or humiliation or resentment or something like that. So for anyone listening, like, I think sometimes, I know for me, I love what you presented, Jo, but Suze is nothing if not direct as fuck. I would listen to that being like, yeah, that's nice, but so to make it to the relatable thing of, and I love how you mentioned like a vibration, a sensation in the body. And for anyone listening, if you're not driving and it's safe to do so, I encourage you to close your eyes. What would anxiety feel like in your body, just so you can get a touch or a connection to it? And a lot of people would say things like, I feel my throat going dry, my mouth going dry, I feel my heart rate increasing. For me, I get the rash of despair, like it starts off and then it goes up into my cheeks and whatever, or your pulse racing. You can label that emotion as anxiety. And often, just even noticing what you feel, because as you said, we haven't been taught to feel, process, sit with emotion. We've been taught, let's go shopping, let's eat ice cream. Like if a kid falls over or has a bad report card or doesn't make the team, let's shove that down with something and have a moment instead to experience it. Doesn't mean we need to unpack and live there. Doesn't mean I enjoy feeling anxious. I very recently flew, and as I get anxiety, and as I was lining up, looking at that little tin can, thinking that's going to take me up in the air. I was like, this is not the time to sit with anxiety. I can process this later. But just, as you said, to be aware of it. And the thought was to, obviously, what if this thing crashes? But then the thought could equally be, what if this thing goes really well? Like, what if it's a smooth flight? What if it's fast? Like sometimes, flights aren't always doom and gloom and turbulence and stuff. Like that one or two past experiences have mirrored flying for me forevermore. But, there can also be positive experiences as well. So I love how you encapsulated that. So that's number one, not wanting to feel a negative emotion. I love how you even said we label them as a negative, because sometimes something like humiliation or embarrassment can be like, okay, well, what I've learned from this is singing is not going to be my career path. There are other people who do it really well. It's not for me. So, And what's number two, Jo?
Number two is wanting other people to change so that they can feel better.
Don't we all want that at some stage? It's like, if you just did your homework, if you just cleaned your room, if you just...
yeah, exactly. If you just take the rubbish out. Yeah, exactly. And this is your realm. For me, the soul for this is boundaries. Always boundaries. So an example I had is I had a boyfriend who wanted to smoke in the house. And it became a long conversation. And I was like, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. And the boundary part, we've kind of mistakenly believed that it's like the request to the other person. That's the only part to it. But what we didn't realize is that adults can do whatever they want. And they can agree. So he'd be like, yeah. So I would temporarily think, oh, great, he's going to do what I want. And that was the giveaway in a way, that was a tell. And then he would just go and do whatever the fuck he wanted. So after I learned this process, things changed. And I'm reporting that relationship is no longer. There were other things as well, but that was part of it. And, I had to say to him, if you want to smoke in the house, we can't live together. There were other things that...
I love that's such a beautiful boundary. For anyone listening, I'm just going to jump in there. If you want to, we can't. So often people think boundary is an order or a direction or whatever. It's like, if you continue to do this, I will. So it's not saying you can't smoke in the house. It's like, if you continue to smoke in the house, we won't live together. So he can smoke in his own house, but it's not going to be our house. And I just love that. Like, often conversations, communication is a large part of my work. And it's like, if you continue to raise your voice, I will hang up the phone. It's not saying you can't yell or don't yell at me or whatever. It's saying I will not be on the receiving end of this. The same as people who send me a message and want to pick my brain. If you don't want to pay me for a session, I will buy that hour back myself and go hang out with my kids. Some people think it's sarcastic or rude, but it's like, no. This is what you allow will continue, and having boundaries and setting boundaries and upholding boundaries is your responsibility. And finding that middle ground, because there may be things that you are flexible on and things that you aren't.
Yeah. And so I always come back to this idea that a boundary is for us to protect what matters to us. Whether that's
Yes.
a physical person and our property. Like we all have a boundary around our home, right?
Yes. You don't let people just come and
You
throw
don't,
their trash in your house.
yeah, yeah, or you don't break in, and we all have boundaries around our physical bodies. Like you don't beat me up, but you don't
Yes.
go into a public place and say, "Hey, everybody, don't hit me."
But I love how you say to protect, because the fact that you're trying to set a boundary with someone shows that you want the relationship to continue. If you weren't having that conversation, like people think, oh, boundaries mean that I don't care or I don't want anything to do with them. It's like, no, if I didn't care and I don't want anything to do with you, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Exactly, and that's where this builds on the first skill of allowing negative emotion, because what can happen is if you've laid out your boundary, hey, if you want to do this thing in the house, we can't live together, and then if it matters to you and you want to uphold that, you might have to allow yourself to feel really uncomfortable to say, right, we're not going to live together.
Yes.
Where that having that skill of allowing those negative emotions becomes really useful.
Yeah, because it's not about getting what you want all the time or people pleasing. And when you stop people pleasing, many people are not pleased.
Yeah, and the balance is that you allow the other person to do whatever they want, you please them, and you remain with the negative emotion of being angry about what they're doing.
Yes, and that just compounds.
Negative emotion anyway.
Yeah, that's so good. So what's number 3, Jo?
Number 3 is talking to yourself like someone you love. So so yeah, we often don't do that, and again, it's in very subtle ways. Oh, I'm such an idiot. I shouldn't have done that. Oh, that was a terrible mistake.
What was I thinking?
Yeah, what was I thinking? Like, oh, why did I even do that?
I should know better.
Yeah, I should know better. Should be over this by now. Should have achieved that by now. And all this stuff just like subtly undermines our self-confidence and our self-esteem. And so lots of people think that it's very hard to love themselves, right? But actually what is harder is to not love yourself. And also, loving yourself doesn't mean that you're arrogant and puffed up and that you're walking around like, I'm so amazing. But this phrase, I'm amazing, is a phrase that I took on when I understood that I was amazing just because I was a human being on the planet. So it's something that I encourage my clients to say. If someone ever says to you, how are you today? You can say, I'm amazing. Because you didn't create you. Something else created you. And to me, it's to be like a human being with limbs and arms and legs who can walk and talk. That's mind-blowing to me. And I feel so grateful that even at the tender age of 50, that delight and wonder of being a physical human being, where on earth did we come from? That amazement of us has never left me. So I can say without any shadow of doubt, I'm amazing. And that's something that I really encourage people to say, because you really are. It doesn't matter what you've done, how much money you've made. Like if you've had photographs on the front page of the newspaper, if you've made £1 million, if you've won the Formula One, like you're just amazing, regardless.
Love that, because
that,
so many, as you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's how you can cultivate a relationship of being a best friend to yourself, by recognizing that.
And I would say, like, noticing when you do catch yourself with the language of I'm so stupid, I'm so silly, I should know better. For me, and what I recommend my clients doing, when I catch myself doing that, I speak to myself like in Mickey Mouse or some crazy cartoon character's voice, and I say it back, I'm so stupid, and then I just start laughing because it sounds ridiculous. But it's just that because we don't catch it, it becomes an inner monologue. And it's just the way that we speak to ourselves. And it's like, would you say that to your child or your best friend or your partner? Like, I'm sure if you did, they wouldn't be your partner or your best friend for very long. But we speak to ourselves like that. So I don't try and stop it. But when I catch it, I say it out loud in a cartoon character's voice, which 9 times out of 10 makes me laugh. And then from there, like, and I loved how you added on, I'm amazing, and then noticing people's reaction to that, because so often, how are you? Good, thanks. How are you? Like, they don't even hear it. So if you're like, I'm fabulous, I'm sensational, or if I'm not, I'm cantankerous. I love saying that because people's reaction to that is like, what? This isn't socially acceptable. But sometimes I am. And I think just naming the emotion takes some of the power away from it than just stewing in it or ignoring it.
Totally. I have a friend who, when I ask him how he is, he says, I'm marvelous. But then the next day, if I ask him how he is, he says, I'm getting to marvelous.
Oh, I love that. Yes. So good. This time has gone so fast, Jo. So what do you do? Like, how do you work with people and where can they find you?
I work with people one-to-one. I'm currently offering a 6-week one-on-one life coaching package. They can find me on Instagram at Jo_Renshaw. That is the best place to find me.
Perfect. And your website?
JoRenshaw.com.
And it's for anyone listening, JoRenshaw. And if you can't find it, just ping me through an email. But Jo's website is fabulous. Her Instagram is fabulous. And her coaching package is amazing. And I love how it's 6 weeks. Like, let's get in, get it done, and get out. None of this long, meandering bizzo.
Yeah, indeed.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, Jo. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.
Thank you.